Morning, David.
Hey.
Hey. Tom, do you want to participate in the David Samson Show? You don't have to if you don't want to. I just need to know if you want to get in the Zoom for TV. Yeah?
Because I know he has an ALS tie that I'd love to talk to him about if he has.
Great. Hop in the Zoom then.
I don't have the link to the Zoom.
I sent it to you.
Okay.
How you doing, Mikey?
I'm doing all right. Sore. I'm old. Old as shit. I'm washed. Can't.
Stop it.
If I take a couple of weeks off from soccer and I try to play it again, my body breaks. It's ridiculous. Did you read that the sit-up is dead? Saw that. R.I.P. Thoughts and prayers. Salute to the sit-up. Now, anytime I look in the mirror, I'm like, well, I can't do abs. Sit-up's dead. Why even bother? Hey, David, can you lower your laptop just a little bit so we can have your body fill up the frame just a little bit more?
Me?
Yep.
Lower it.
Yeah, just lower the screen. Like tilt it a little bit more towards you so your body takes...
You mean the camera? I have a
yeah,
camera.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's what I mean. Boop, boop, boop. Muting Tom. All right. Does that look better? That looks better to me, guys. All right. Let's get going. I got a 9 o'clock. All right. 1, 2, 3. Welcome, everybody, to the David Samson Show, a weekly benchmark that we quite enjoy here on the Dan Le Batard Show every Thursday. David Samson, host of Nothing Personal with David Samson. Follow him on Twitter, at David P. Samson on Twitter. Post a lot of clips there. And support David and his show. He's a grinder. He works hard, and he gets into fights with Yankee fans, so it's an interesting follow. Let's talk about that. Oh, boy. You were catching all sorts of heat for not watching the Yankees this season and being too lazy to even open up a box score to see exactly how good these Yankee pitchers have been. You had the gall to challenge one of the more gluttonous franchises in Major League Baseball to make a big deal nearing the trade deadline to improve that rotation that many Yankee fans are pushing back on you, saying they don't need any help whatsoever, David.
Oh, I think they're saying they need help offensively, and they were very offended that I would say that Garrett Cole is not an ace. And I think what people are generally forgetting, and someone wrote an article about this, which made me laugh today, that someone on Twitter just sent to me, some guy named Adam telling me it's the worst take ever for the Yankees. And I guess after 18 years, I can only say this. You can never have enough pitching. And if you think you do in April, May, and June, you're guaranteed not to win a ring in October. And the Yankees, as their rotation currently sits, you can look at all the statistical metrics you want. You can be a total analytical nerd. I'm in on all of it. But at the end of the day, what I know for certain is that a rotation of Cole and Severino and Montgomery and Nestor Cortez, who's actually been the best pitcher on their team, that's not going to get you. And I said this on Twitter, and people are like, what do you mean get through October? When you are Brian Cashman, you are not trying to make the playoffs. You are making the playoffs. You are trying to get through the playoffs and win a division series, a championship series, and a World Series. And to do that, you need 2 starters. Sometimes your starters end up in the bullpen, and I get that. And I think they've got some good opportunities with some of their starters to actually be in the bullpen, because Chapman is not the Chapman of old by any stretch. He's more like a middle reliever right now. But you've got to have, we're going to win tonight starters. And the teams who win World Series have that. Whether they go 5 innings, 7 innings, it doesn't matter. And the Yankees just don't. No matter what the fans want to believe, and believe me, fans get blinded. I get it. They're blinded by stats. They're blinded by love. They're blinded by emotion. But I will stand by what I said, and I will die on the hill, and I'm going to end up being right. If the Yankees do not make a move and get another starting pitcher, they will not win the World Series. And as you know, there's winning in New York, and there's misery, the Pat Riley phrase, and there will be misery in the Bronx without more starting pitching.
It wasn't the most interesting Yankee Twitter story of last week. I was kind of surprised at what the Yankees took the opportunity to do in conjunction with the Tampa Bay Rays social handles. And during their ball game last week, they just put out bone-chilling gun statistics. What did you make of the Yankees' move on social media last week?
Yeah, that was actually, Mike, one of the highest-rated segments on Nothing Personal of the last month was the segment where I talked about what the Yankees and Rays did, statistically speaking, because somehow CBS is able to figure out who's listening to what, when, how, and where. I'm sure you do the same thing with your show. And what I said is I think it's nice what the Yankees and Rays did. However, they really put their political muscle behind making sure their unvaccinated players could play outdoors, right? That was a big thing. We're meeting with the mayor, we're meeting with the Congress people, and we've got to make sure the laws change because, well, it's great that Kyrie Irving's in the playoffs, but we need Aaron Judge to play once the season starts. And I was wondering what Randy Levine and Hal Steinbrenner are doing in order to get guns off the street, to get AR-15s out of the hands of children, to try to make it so we can go to a movie, a grocery store, and we can go to school, send our kids to school, and not frickin' worry about whether they're going to come back. And I think it's nice that we got those stats, but I want action. And we're doing something with action on Nothing Personal. We are hiring an employee, believe it or not. And we are going to, CBS is not, we're going full Chris Cody. We are hiring an employee, and we are going to get information to all of our listeners in all 50 states, how they can register to vote, what the voting record is of their local and federal political representatives, and whether or not they want those people in office. Because for the life of me, and I'm not trying to be preachy, I'm just asking. When you live in Texas, do you look at Ted Cruz? When you live in Florida, do you look at Marco Rubio and say, man, I'm so happy that guy represents me? That's exactly how I feel. Because Governor Abbott, oh, he's my guy. If that's true, then I think we've got a much bigger problem in our country. If the politicians are actually representing what we want as a society, as citizens, I'm not sure what to do, Mike. But if not, I know exactly what to do, and we're going to take action. And my hope is that the Yankees and Rays, we're going to take more political action. But listen, Stu Sternberg's the guy who won't even get dirty trying to get a stadium, right? He doesn't want to ruffle any feathers at all, so he can use his social media to say how many kids are dying of gun violence and statistics on X, Y, and Z. Just during this game, someone has been threatened. That was a good one. Did you read that one? The Yankees said the number of women who get threatened with guns is at an all-time high. And then, of course, they looked at their own player, Chapman, and said, and look, we've got the proof of that.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that you're doing something about it. There was yet another mass shooting yesterday, and it's a little frustrating as the center is kind of being eradicated because the center does not sell when it comes to cable news, and you're basically all or nothing with your political parties right now. This is a time for bipartisanship when 90% of Americans want common sense gun reform, and we can't do it because we're still fighting a culture war. It's very frustrating. But I'm glad that you're putting your money where your mouth is, and you hired somebody to bring about some change, David.
Yeah, but don't worry, because Nancy Pelosi said today that they're going to take a look at an assault weapons ban. They're going to take a look at it. I wonder what happens like in Capitol Hill when they look at stuff. Like, do they see what we see? Or do they say, hey, we looked at it, we had a hearing. It's like the oversight hearing where they're trying to talk to Roger Goodell and Danny Snyder of the Washington Commandskins, and they're going to bring them in to talk about workplace. They're having a whole hearing about workplace environment to make sure it never happens again. I got an idea. How about a hearing on assault weapons?
Ooh, well, I appreciate the Vine. I am going to take that Vine, but a little later, because today on the Dan Le Batard Show, and David, you've already given to this cause, so thank you. It is Lou Gehrig Day and Major League Baseball. Tom, I'm going to welcome you in here. This is the second annual Lou Gehrig Day.
That's right.
Is it Lou Gehrig Day or Lou Gehrig's Day?
Lou Gehrig Day.
Lou Gehrig Day that Major League Baseball is celebrating. We got a big event going down at Lone Depot Park that's going to take some getting used to say. If you want to join us out there at the game, go to lulapalooza.com. worldofsuey.com. Jesus Christ. Worldofsuey.com/Lulapalooza. We didn't have the money to just solidify Lulapalooza.com. I think that's
Did you get a
copyright
group deal with Jeter? How did this all happen? I need some details because Tom, how are you? I love what you're doing. I love that you're raising money for it. When I did, can I tell you a quick ALS story?
Yes, please.
So ALS is something that my best friend's father died from ALS, and I watched it happen. And my cousin's mother-in-law and my cousin's grandmother-in-law and my cousin's aunt-in-law, they have the genetic ALS. And they're all dying from ALS, and he's worried about his own kids because there's a genetic form of ALS which gets passed down, and then there's you're just unlucky form of ALS, and they both result in the same thing. There is 0% survival rate for ALS, and the money that you're raising, we have to find there's been so many improvements in medicine, in cancer, and in all sorts of things, and ALS, there's been nothing. And we keep raising money, and I just keep crossing my fingers because what you're going through, what people go through, it is simply a nightmare, and it is devastating, tragic. So I love what you're doing. I'm interested that you chose to use the Marlins as your conduit because was there some sort of great group deal where you're getting maximum profit for minimum investment?
The answer is that we were trying to get you to the ballpark, Dave.
I
We
still
knew.
haven't gone to a game since I got shit canned.
We thought this would be it. The power of ALS will compel you to make your triumphant return to the Marlins Park. I guess it's called Lone Depot Park now. But maybe in the future we can make this happen, David, for ALS.
So I didn't know what it would take to get me back to a game. I mean, now that Jeter was fired, I think that there's a better chance. Maybe I can go sit in the Diamond Club. I don't even know if they call it the Diamond Club anymore. And I can just stare at Bruce Sherman the whole time and whisper sweet thank yous into his ear and I think he'd probably hear me given the crowds there. But you guys are, how many people are you expecting?
Oh, I don't know. But considering the attendance at the Marlins Park, we're trying to fill up the park, but it's going to be difficult. It's a lot of seats to fill, but we're excited. We're going to do the meetup before the game at 5:30. We're going to be at the Bacardi bar at 5:30. The crew's going to be here. I think Mike, you're going to be there.
I'm going to be there. And I'm putting in work for you. You're a dear friend, and I believe in this cause so much so that I am.
You're going to a baseball game.
Going to a baseball game.
Mike, you're making it sound like it's torturous to go to a baseball game.
Well, the last time I went to a baseball game, I did not watch the baseball game, and that's usually what I do when I go to Lone Depot Park. I've been there a handful of times, and I think somebody hit for a cycle once, and I still didn't watch. Like
You found out after the game that you attended a game. There was a cycle.
They were playing the Dodgers, and I read on Twitter later that there was a cycle at the game that I was attending. I was like, huh.
How about that?
Yeah, I was.
Do you know we built the Bacardi bar for people just like you? The theory was for that bar, I think it was called that when we were there. I don't know if it's still in the right field, right center field. Is that where you're going to be?
Well, Mike doesn't know.
Why are you asking me?
Yeah, come on.
I know the statue's outside now, and the Clevelander bar is something else.
There's no pool anymore.
There's no pool.
There's no naked women. There's no nothing.
There's no aquariums behind home plate.
There's no winning. There's no fish.
This used to be my playground by Madonna is just blaring through the speakers, honestly, every time I go there, which is not often.
So we built this Bacardi bar because the way this stadium is built had to be built because of the roof. There were seats that were going to be... What's it called at Wrigley Field when you can't see because of a pole? Oh, my
Obstructed
God.
view?
Obstructed view. Thank you. My God.
And it's not just Wrigley. Fenway has the same thing. I'm a Red Sox fan.
Yes,
so.
Fenway definitely has obstructed view seats. So we decided to take out a bunch of seats while it was being built, while it was being designed, and we built this wedge bar. And the wedge bar is meant for people who don't want to watch baseball. So we put a bunch of TVs, and what we have playing there back when I was running the team is we didn't even have the game on the TVs. We had other sports and other shows because we thought that there would be people who would come to games just to hang out, get drunk on Bacardi rum, and not watch baseball. So that's where you're going to be.
Yeah, that's what Recess does now. That's the former Clevelander bar down there. I believe it's called Recess. And I watched the Bucks Celtics play while there was a baseball game going on.
What's Recess?
That is what the new Clevelander is.
Is that a company?
No. It's what they're calling that sports bar area. I went down there. It was a good time.
What does that mean? You like recess when you're like in grade school?
Yeah, what it means is they had a bar and they named it Recess. Yeah, like
No, but I'm asking what but it's not named after a company?
it's not named after. No, it's not named after a company. It's named after recess when you're at school.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, fun.
Oh.
You know what? Are you familiar with the
Well,
concept
I
of
just don't get
fun?
that because they took all the fun away, right? They took the pool away. They took
Fun is back.
Fun's back?
Fun's back, and other sports other than baseball on the TV screens are back, at least down there.
Can we do a poll without Dan? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, you can do a poll.
Yeah.
Do you think that people associate the word recess with fun?
Yes.
Like when you say
Let's do it,
recess,
Paul. You're
what's
gonna
that
lose
game
this,
show?
David. You're gonna lose
Am
this.
I really going to lose it? You know the game show where it's where you say a word and someone has to say a word back that has to do with the word? I can't remember the name of that game show back from when I was a kid. But if I said to you, recess, what would you say?
Playground.
See, I that's a good one. But I don't know. Would you ever say fun?
Yeah. Recess, everybody would look forward to recess.
Did you not look forward to recess?
Did you not
Were
have recess?
Yeah.
Did you just call it
I
PE?
used to get beaten up.
So I want to ask you this, David, because right here I'm going to show you in the Zoom, and the people that are listening are not going to be able to understand this.
Show's going up on YouTube. And Tom, kudos to you. This is the second consecutive day you're doing visual only on a predominantly audio medium. So
Well, I knew that it was going to be posted on YouTube. I knew that.
He dressed up. He looks great.
do me
Showered.
a favor and try to vividly describe what you're about to hold up into the Zoom screen for David Samson.
This is a raggedy ticket stub from 2004 ALCS Game 3. I was at Fenway for Game 3, down 0-3. The first time in Major League Baseball history that a team had come back from down 0-3. And this ticket stub, as a Red Sox fan, represents something more than that. It represents that no matter how down you are, you feel like you're out of luck, that things can turn around in life. And so ALS, the power of ALS has brought my dad, who's a lifelong Red Sox fan, to Yankee Stadium to cheer on, I don't know if it's the Yankees, but he is rallying around Lou Gehrig Day, and I am wearing a Lou Gehrig hat because we need a cure for ALS, and this is how much it means to me, is that the Haberstroh family, where we grew up outside of New York City and watched Tim Wakefield throw that pitch, and Aaron flippin' Boone hit that home run, and before the ball even landed, we had turned off the TV in our house because it was so upsetting. This family of mine, we are going to go to Yankee Stadium. We're going to go to Lone Depot Park. We're going to go all across the country to try to end ALS, to try to find cures and treatments, and try to figure out a way that we're going to be able to have my mother, who in 2017 had the same prognosis as Lou Gehrig did when he got his diagnosis 80 years ago, that we're going to bring some good news in the future. And so the people who are listening, the people who are out there who want to contribute, worldofsuey.com/Lulapalooza. You can just go to worldofsuey.com and contribute. We're trying to raise $44,444 and for ALS causes. Bugshiambi's Foundation is one of those recipients. I Am ALS does great work, and Brian Wallach, and also the ALS Center in Miami. I just did an interview with Dr. Benatar from the ALS Center at University of Miami, does great work, and we're going to present pregame a wheelchair to a person of need who has ALS that can't afford it. So we're doing all these great things. As a Red Sox fan, it pains me to say, hey, Yankees, on this day, we're going to be okay with cheering you on because it is for a greater cause. So you contributed $1,000, over $1,000, I should say, to this cause. I just wanted to ask you, what about your best friend's family? Just a little story about them, because although they did have ALS and a lot of your friends' family had ALS, I just wanted to tell the people that a little something about them.
That's really nice that you're asking that, actually, because often it's not about the person, it's about the cause. And to bring it down to the micro level, people who have ALS, there's somebody's father, somebody's mother, somebody's sibling, right? And so my best friend's father was from Argentina, and he didn't speak much English. And as his ALS progressed, what I found is I was able to communicate with him almost the same way before he had ALS, because I don't speak Spanish. and this is before I was in Miami, where I still didn't speak Spanish, but we would communicate because ALS is the worst type of disease because it doesn't impact the brain. It impacts the body. So the people who have it are aware. It's not like dementia, where it's so much harder, believe it or not, on the family than it is on the person, because the person with dementia just doesn't, it's like, 30-second Bob, right, from 50 First Dates. They just don't remember stuff. But in ALS, they do, and they know their body's failing, and it fails. Everybody's different, but he failed from toe to head. Yep. And so he started having trouble walking, and then he was in a wheelchair, and then you eventually have trouble breathing, and then you pass away. And that's sort of the progression of it. And my memory is going to be with him and not acknowledging that he had ALS. And I was one of the few people who could do that because everyone else had counted on speaking with him and communicating with him in Spanish and having this relationship. My relationship with him was all like hand signals and eye signals, which is how there's communication with people with advanced ALS. And so my memory is that I was one of the people who was able to have this relationship with him that didn't actually decrease or diminish over the course of his disease. And I found that to be somewhat ironic and sad. And there was jealousy of people who were like, God, he wants to be around you all the time. And the reason he did is that he was able to actually talk to me in the way that he always had.
So once again, head over to worldofsuey.com/Lulapalooza. We're going to be doing a live fundraising effort today on the show on YouTube for fans that enjoy when we go live on YouTube. Head over to our YouTube page today. We'll get all the links on social as well. Dave, you gave me the vine earlier. I'm going to go ahead and follow it. The House Oversight Committee, as a part of their long investigation into the Washington Commanders franchise workplace, is asking that Daniel Snyder and Roger Goodell come in and speak to the House Oversight Committee. You're laughing
Fat
already.
chance.
You don't think this is going to happen? They don't have subpoena power, do they?
So they could subpoena, but they won't. So I'm laughing because my word of the day for today's Nothing Personal was request. And I was talking about how, like, it's a wedding invitation. We request the presence of blank for the blank marriage of blank and blank. And when you get a request, you evaluate it. Like, it's almost like the funeral game. Where are you located? Do I have other plans? How far do I have to travel? And Roger Goodell got that request, and basically he wiped his tuchus with it, because their initial statement was, hey, we gave them 460,000 emails. What more do they want? And the reason why Roger Goodell doesn't want to appear before any oversight committee without pre-negotiating exactly what questions will be asked, which the Oversight Committee is not going to do, because while they say they're not going to talk about the financial improprieties of the command skins, and they're not going to ask about what they're doing about Danny Boy and the workplace environment, they can't guarantee, and Roger and his lawyers can't guarantee, that he's not going to be asked questions that he doesn't want to answer. And also, Roger Goodell looks back at Bud Selig appearing before Congress in the steroid hearings and says, wow, I don't want to be in that position. So I am very frustrated by what this committee is doing, because they released a statement saying, we are trying to make sure that what happened with the command skins never happens again. This is not the way to do it, right? By trying to get attention by requesting Roger Goodell and Daniel Snyder. They're doing that for their best interests, and they're not effectuating change in any way.
A couple of months ago, you suggested that we put out a hypothetical prop bet that if Stephen Ross and Daniel Snyder, one of them, or at least one of them, would not be an owner this coming NFL season. You voted yes on that. You took those odds. We're a couple of months away here from the season. I think 99 days away from the start of the NFL season. This is another drop in the bucket when it comes to Daniel Snyder. Do you maintain that one of those two will be gone by the beginning of the NFL season?
So I have to change the timeline because the season's coming so quickly. And I think that you're seeing little nuggets, like with owners saying they're beginning to count votes as to whether they can oust Daniel Snyder. And you've got to count to 24. And I don't know that they'll be able to count to 24. I think I may have underestimated how much Jerry Jones and the other owners don't want to force out Danny Snyder, because they're worried that then they're going to be next, because the closets are quite full for all of these owners, and they're full of Halloween-style skeletons. So they want to make sure they don't start that road. So I think I'm wrong with timing, but I do not think that Daniel Snyder is going to be around for the opening of a stadium in Virginia or Maryland or the District of Columbia. I think that his time as owner is coming to an end. Steve Ross is going to skate. I do not think Snyder will.
On Nothing Personal, did you guys tackle what's going on with the Saudi Arabian golf tour? That's not the name of it. I think it's called like LIV Golf.
LIV.
Yeah.
It's called LIV.
Weird branding for that.
Behind the velvet rope, baby.
Yeah.
I talked about LIV and the fountain blue, and that's what, Dustin Johnson and Paulina Gretzky got 120 million reasons to say goodbye to PGA. Listen, of course I covered it because there's free agency in golf now. And that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody around college, nice uniform, Roy. That's awesome. You couldn't have gone like a little retro, gone with the old M. You're all new, right?
I lost that cap. I'm sorry, David. Somewhere in the house.
I love
I
love the
even find
video
it
only
anymore.
references that were putting together.
Sorry.
In this.
Roy is here, and Roy's wearing a Marlins jersey getting ready for the ALS fundraiser. I can only assume he's going to appear.
That is correct, sir.
And he's wearing the new jersey, which was the first thing that Jeter... This is the second thing that Jeter did when he took over the team. The first thing was to take all the pictures of me down from the stadium. The second thing he did was change the jersey.
And the home run statue.
No, that took some time because he had to get his partners to pony up $3 million to pay to get that sculpture moved to the outside.
I have to admit, though, this is an upgrade over the Technicolor uniforms. Just give me teal. What are we doing? Just give me the teal and black. That's where we won
Jeffrey
the 2
didn't
world
want
titles.
teal?
Why didn't
I
he
don't
want
think I've ever told you this.
Why didn't he want teal?
So I try to not be upset when Sherman and Jeter don't want to acknowledge 03. But then I remember that Jeffrey didn't want to acknowledge 97. He wanted his World Series to be the only World Series, or his time as owner to be the only time. And so his view was teal is associated with Huizinga and Henry, and he wanted a brand new start. And so you'll notice that once he took over, it was the black jerseys that were worn much more often. Remember those black Marlins jerseys?
Love those jerseys.
Those were very,
That's
very
the one that you
popular.
won Game 6 in Yankee Stadium in.
That's exactly right. Can you imagine winning a World Series in an alternate jersey? It drove me crazy. And we gave power to the starting pitchers to choose their jerseys unless Jeffrey overruled the starting pitcher, which he would only do if it was a starting pitcher he didn't like. But if it's a starting pitcher he liked, he would give them the opportunity. He did that in the new ballpark, too. Whatever Jose wanted to wear, Jose got to wear. And that was a rule that starting pitchers could choose the jerseys. But I wanted to have a set schedule. Like every Sunday we wear this, every Friday this, every Saturday this. But Jeffrey never liked that. But he wanted to get rid of the teal, and he didn't want anything teal. So he went around the offices. In the new ballpark, you'll notice, there's not an ounce of teal anywhere.
Yeah, I hate that. And it was a weird move by Jeffrey Loria, who only won his only World Series wearing teal. And now when you look at the scope of the franchise, honestly, they didn't wear teal for that long, and it's a color that I associate most with this. And for a franchise that is very transactional, there aren't a lot of players that you can connect to. I thought it was a huge mistake to not tap back into the nostalgia of that color. I have zero connection with this team that I'm going to be watching in person today. I would have a connection if it were the uniform that I saw them win 2 World Series in. It would remind me of my childhood. They're not named the same team. They're the Miami Marlins, not the Florida Marlins. They don't have any teal. For a franchise that struggled to form these connections with the sports fan, it was a really odd choice, and I think a regrettable one ultimately.
What about the Heat?
The Heat have been wearing basically the same colors since their inception.
Are you joking? They've got 49 different jerseys.
The Vice City stuff? Yeah.
What do you mean? They wear different jerseys every day.
I hate the ransom
note.
note.
Who the road team is.
Well, I think the Vice colors, number one, the Vice colors is massively popular with the fan base here and internationally. It outsold all the other city edition jerseys combined.
But I'm asking whether or not it doesn't remind you of your childhood like in the Heat.
Oh, I wish that the Heat would wear their traditional uniform sets more. I hated that ransom note of a uniform that they trotted out with this year. But their explanation for it was to tap into the history for it. But the Heat, I don't struggle to find a connection with the Miami Heat. Dwayne Wade was there most of my adult life. Udonis Haslem has been there since I was a child. Pat Riley's been there the entire time. The connection points are there. They play in a building that I've seen them win championships in. They occasionally wear the uniforms I'm used to. For a team like the Marlins that don't play in the same park where they had their success, that don't have any of the players that jettisoned their luminaries while Jeter was here, that did as much as they possibly could to separate themselves from your regime, a regime that actually had something that fans can look back on lovingly and say, wow, we were world champions once. It's weird decision after weird decision to try to run away from their past when their past is all they have, David.
Can we talk about Udonis Haslem coming out and saying that he doesn't want to coach? Didn't you? I thought Udonis Haslem has been a coach for the last 5 years. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, he is coaching, whether he likes it or not. He doesn't want to actually join the coaching staff. That's a curious decision. I didn't see that quote. A lot of people, oddly, were making fun of how distraught he was after losing that Game 7 at home, and it really bothered me that you would think that people would know nationally what Udonis Haslem means to this franchise and why he would take all that pain and suffering into the locker room with him.
What Udonis Haslem means to me is that NBA rosters are too big.
Don't people understand, though, when it comes to Udonis Haslem, that I understand making fun of an assistant coach that happens to be in a uniform, but he is practicing with these guys every day. And because he's still maybe not what you think of an NBA player, but still good enough to practice with them, he has the respect of everybody he's playing with. That makes him different than an assistant coach if you're physically banging with these guys every day.
Yurtsevin, Bam, even Hassan Whiteside during his time down here, all these big men made big leaps while playing in practice with Udonis Haslem. They've developed big men quite well down here.
Yeah, and Spo once told me that the reason why Juwan Howard was a player, they signed Juwan Howard as a player and not as an assistant coach, is because when you put that jersey on and bang with them in practice and go at them in practice, they listen a lot more than when you're with a suit on. And Spo told me, he's like, the reason why we did this is because he has more power with the players if he is a player himself. And so they did it with Juwan Howard, and then he became a great head coach at Michigan. And I think Udonis Haslem has that power with the jersey on rather than a suit.
When they have
So
players,
you would bring him back next year?
Oh, I would personally bring him back. We've debated. Look at what they've done with the guys at the end of the bench. Their record in developing these G League undrafted players is better than anybody else. But I've been swayed, and I'm a big believer in Udonis being an extension of that coaching staff. When they kick all the coaches out and have a players-only meeting, Udonis Haslem is still in that meeting, and he's the eyes and ears who saw how he defended his coach. That's how the culture trickles on down to the players. He's an extension of that staff, and I'm fine with it now.
So are you into the player-coach concept then?
Well, I think that's
Like
very
in
confusing.
baseball, how do you feel about a manager-player?
I think they should be allowed to do that, but the salary cap ramifications, well, not in baseball because there are none, but certainly in the other sports, you can never have a Bill Russell ever again because why you could have him making the minimum on the court, and you could just pay him a coaching salary, and there's all sorts of punitive measures there that would be taken. But in baseball, I'm kind of down. There was recently this was entertained, wasn't the notion of a player coach? I forget the player. Oh, it was one of these
Noted baseball fan, Mike Ryan.
No, there was a player recently that they were entertaining the.
Would Pujols qualify? I mean,
Was it Matt Holliday? There was a player. David, you're the baseball
No,
guy.
Here's why you can't have a manager-coach, and why I also believe you can't have a coach-GM. Like why there's a difference between Riley and Spoelstra. You're too close. If you're too close to the players, you actually become emotional and you can't make the proper decisions. And what we found is, while it is good to have leadership in uniform and have them control the clubhouse and have them enforce the rules, one of the most important jobs of a manager or a coach is personnel decisions. Who goes, who stays. And I find players to be blinded by loyalty, blinded by friendship. And that, like when you trade a player who has a good friend on your team, like when we traded A.J. Ramos, it was Giancarlo Stanton's best friend. And Stanton was like, what are you doing? And the answer was, well, we're not going to be able to bring him back. He's going to make too much money. And by the way, we're going to get a prospect for him. And Stan says, well, I don't care about the prospects. I want Ramos. Who am I going to be with on the road? Think about that statement. That's why having a player coach or a manager player, it doesn't work, because I don't care who you're going to hang out with on the road or if you're not going to be with your friend. I care about having the best players on the roster possible. And I think Haslam taking up a roster spot when he's a coach, you can still have an assistant coach put on a practice uniform, Tom. I don't understand. If you've got a young, fit coach, why can't they practice with the team?
Well, I think everything. It's not just in the practice. It's on the court. It just carries a different status with the players.
David,
especially
it's not just practicing the way that you're thinking of it, like a Y body. He's practicing in a way that is on the cusp of being NBA good. He's just old, but like he doesn't embarrass himself when he plays in NBA basketball games. It's not a charity case.
Udonis Haslem at the end of the bench in Miami is a charity case that is for the benefit, and don't say that negatively. I'm not saying that negatively, because charity is critical. It's what you're doing tonight at Lone Depot Park. But you have to decide at what price, right? When you're going through charities, you're figuring out who's the most efficient. When you're giving away your ALS money, you're giving it to organizations who are actually not using it to pay front office people. You're trying to cure ALS,
But
right?
you tell me, David, you tell me what the value is of having a pipeline, a bridge between the locker room and the front office that is respected on every side, like Udonis Haslem would. You tell me what having that bridge, maybe you thought you had that relationship with Ugla where Udonis Haslem, in the middle of a fight, what might become a physical fight between Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra, can with credibility stand between them and not be a coach welcoming Jimmy Butler to a fight.
I don't understand your premise, because he can be a coach doing the same exact thing, because it's Udonis Haslem. Udonis Haslem, the person, is so critical to the success of the Heat. I agree with that. That's why I would absolutely pay him player salary to be a coach. But I'm talking about using up a roster spot for someone who is not part of the rotation. He's not even part of the garbage time rotation.
It's not a surprise, David's take here. We just talked about not being able to connect to your past and your history and how the Marlins have struggled with that. So I'm not even blaming him.
He's not relevant. I'm not talking about. You think
I think they're related
to their past?
Yes, I do. These are things that the Miami Heat have done so well, and I think success ultimately brings about all these memories and the great feel good nostalgia. And the Marlins recently haven't had much of that, and it's always a shock to me. I actually tuned in for a weird batting practice softball game that they had when they were celebrating the 25th anniversary of the 97 championship team, because that's all this team has. Those 2 world titles very long ago now. With each passing season, each disappointing season, and with each uniform set change, it seems further and further away. And
you think Tyler Hero cares about Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade and the people who won titles before? I can tell you the 03 Marlins, Miguel Cabrera, Dontrelle Willis, they couldn't name one player from the 97 Marlins.
I mean,
right?
Miguel Cabrera didn't know who he
less.
was hitting a home run off of and why everyone was
So
cheering Roger Clemens.
So why do you need the bridge to the past?
I'm talking about the players. I'm talking about the fans.
It's fans. I live in Charlotte. Dave,
fans?
I live in Charlotte, where they did the whole Bobcats thing. Remember the Bobcats?
Yes, of course.
They got rid of the Hornets. Who doesn't love the Hornets? Purple and teal, the Buzz, the Hugo the Hornet, Muggsy Bogues, Alonzo Mourning, and then they get rid of that and go with the Bobcats because the owner's name is Bob.
But now, how are you with Charlotte? You're good? You're happy with how that franchise is going?
Well, I'm not a fan of the Charlotte Hornets. I'm just in Charlotte, and I see that the fans are way more excited about wearing purple and teal now and going back to the old colors.
Well, the Hornets moved to New Orleans. It's not like they actively chose to be the Bobcats. In fact, the decision that was made is once Hornets became back available after they became the Pelicans, which is still a funny name to me, by the way.
Pellies.
Jordan, it was the best decision he's made his entire time as owner. Let me tap back into that nostalgia. Let me tap back into that.
That's right.
It hasn't
that feel
worked
good.
at all. I don't even understand what you guys are talking
What
about.
do you mean?
Everybody in Charlotte would trade. They would be called the Charlotte Idiots if they could make the playoffs once in the last 12 years or win a round of the playoffs.
I think the fans are way more happy being referred to as the Hornets than they are the Bobcats. Therefore, I do think
with no winning.
Well, they certainly won more as the Hornets than they won as the Bobcats. They didn't win shit as the Bobcats. They made 2 playoff series as the Bobcats.
I'm sorry. What has Jordan done as owner of the Charlotte Hornets? I may have my stats wrong.
He changed the name from Bobcats to Hornets, and that was a pretty big
dub. Has he won a playoff series?
Yes. No, he has not.
Yeah.
They played the Miami Heat.
They went to 7.
The
They got blown out by 35 in a game 7 against the Miami Heat. Purple shirt guy, that's on him.
But what I can't stand is when the conversation about Udonis Haslem happens, I get so incensed. It drives me just absolutely crazy when I hear fans make fun of players who care. Like when Udonis Haslem is getting emotional and upset about an outcome in the game and his career and on the playing field, we want our athletes to care, don't we?
I want the 15th guy on my bench to care that much.
Yes.
I think every fan does. So
Not as much as we care to be cruel on the internet and mock an old man because he's washed. And we want to be the first one to get there and say, how could you hurt Udonis? How could you possibly? You didn't play.
yeah, don't mock
Well,
Udonis.
generally it's eyewash, right? Generally it's eyewash, but with Haslem, I would say that looked genuine to me. But in terms of fans understanding players, just so you know, you as a fan, you care way more than the players do about winning.
I don't doubt that, but I don't care more than Udonis Haslem. And I think that's ultimately the point that I'm trying to make here. We got away from it, but I do want to talk to you about Dustin Johnson, who is absolutely skating. Phil Mickelson died so Dustin Johnson could take his paycheck. Dustin Johnson, who if you follow he and his wife on social media, isn't shy about leaning into Mar-a-Lago or where he feels politically. He does not care. I think he made $75 million on the PGA Tour, which is a shitload of money, which is third most all time. He is going to surpass that quite easily.
That's just earnings. That's not even promotional. That's just after Phil and Tiger Woods, he has made more money in earnings, $74 million than any golfer.
On course earnings. Let's
Yes.
clarify.
Yeah, he's made plenty of sponsorship money, and we'll be curious to see what's the state of his sponsorships now that he's going to LIV Golf. This was a jaw dropper, considering all the heat that Phil Mickelson had. I was really surprised that someone as upper echelon and as actively good. It's one thing that Phil Mickelson, even though he won a title recently, his best days are clearly behind him. Dustin Johnson a year ago was playing some of the best golf on the planet, some of the best golf I had ever seen in my life. So this is a surprise to me, David. You're shaking your head. You're not at all surprised.
No, because it's money, and he acknowledged it. So a few months ago, he gave a statement saying, I'm all about the PGA Tour, and I'm not going to leave, and I respect the PGA Tour too much. And then what changed his mind is guaranteed money. And so when he loses RBC as a sponsor, he did that math with his accountants, his attorneys, and his PR people, and the math was pretty easy. If you lose every one of your sponsors, you're going to lose, let's say, $60 million. But if you get guaranteed $100 million, you're up 40. So did your jaw drop when Tom Brady took the money from Fox? Right? My jaw didn't drop. He's going to make more money, as John Skipper pointed out on a recent podcast. He's going to make more money with Fox than he did on the field as a quarterback. And the answer is, of course, you take that money. So the Saudi Arabian money, as long as he gets paid up front, pays his taxes, they'll get as many players as they want because it is golf free agency. And if you're trying to start a rebel league, you've got to have a player who's good to be the face of it. And Dustin Johnson is the perfect face, right? He's Wayne Gretzky's son-in-law, for crying out loud, who with Paulina Gretzky is willing to be with him side by side. So guaranteeing him the $100 million, that was the negotiation. It was never about killing journalists or raping women or pillaging women. They just said, please don't comment on anything, take the money and play in the tournament.
Mike, the reports were $125 million. And David, the part that is unseemly on not commenting, we can be as cold and cutthroat about business and money as we like, and it doesn't have to be about bone-sawing journalists if you're just trying to form a golf tour, but this is blood money. This money is used by the Saudis to legitimize themselves, and they just bought a golf star in his prime with blood money, and he's helping them sports wash their money. That's the transaction that just took place. Phil Mickelson had swallowed him because he dared to say it out loud. Greg Norman, it's come close. The flames on him have come close because he dares to say it out loud. The answer on quiet, I'm not even sure this guy might lean into it. When Mike says it might be bleep this, I don't care, I'll take any consequences, he might lean into all of it. And what will the consequences be if he doesn't need sponsors because the Saudis can give him so much money and he's that good?
And I agree with every point Dan is making, but we are holding Dustin Dustin Johnson to a higher standard that we hold our own country, because our own country deals with Saudi Arabia plenty, and Saudi
What about
Arabia
your
funded
soccer
9.
team, Mike?
What?
What about Grand Prix? What about the soccer team owned by Saudi Arabia?
Yeah,
and
there's
sponsored.
Yeah,
What
Newcastle.
about the Grand Prix. You guys were hobnobbing around Miami with Max Verstappen and all the other guys. How cool it was to be around that. What about the race in Saudi Arabia?
The point that I'm trying to make is to isolate Dustin Johnson feels kind of hypocritical, because our own country still does business with the country that funded 9/11 in Saudi Arabia. It's almost impossible in the modern age right now to not do business with Saudi Arabia, considering the death grip that they have on petroleum.
I thought we were going to separate the art from the artist.
It's Bonesaws is a pretty vivid picture, and the heat that Phil Mickelson got was very real. And I am surprised that someone as good, as at their peak, maybe just a little removed from their peak as Dustin Johnson, leaving the PGA Tour for this very controversial league. It was a gutsy move on his part. I can't lie.
It took him 1 second. It was just a negotiation. I think you're putting way too much emphasis on the social part of this and on the violent part of this and on the disgusting part of this. And that's the whole show, what we talk about. It's just business.
You mentioned
this was simple.
You mentioned Newcastle. You mentioned the fact that there's a race in Saudi Arabia. The WWE is something I still watch. WWE, they go to Saudi Arabia. I think where LIV Golf is different is that it's an entity just totally born and owned from Saudi Arabia, as those entities are just parts of a larger thing. Newcastle is part of the Premier League. Saudi Arabia is part of Tour Stops. The fact that this is totally operated by the Saudis, I think, is why you're getting a bit of a different reaction to it.
I'm not sure that's right. I think it's just sponsored by them.
They're just sponsors.
Yeah,
well,
what do you mean by operated?
Greg Norman isn't Saudi Arabian.
He's the president.
Yeah.
Greg Norman is the president. He's the commissioner of the league.
All right, but they're the money
league.
behind. They're the money behind it.
Okay,
but they're not the money behind the. They're not the money behind W. Well, I guess they are the money behind
Yes,
WWE
they
at this
are.
point. But they're not the money behind the Premier League. They're just part of it.
But people are more than happy to be fans of Newcastle.
Oh yeah.
That's the joke with Chelsea. Everyone's saying, I mean, did you do this too? Where, hey, we've got to hear from Ricketts and we've got to hear from Bowley. What are you going to do for us? We're the supporters. I know you care so much about us. But if you're a fan of a different team, are you saying the same thing of Saudi Arabia?
There was
Are
a
you
Saudi.
making sure.
There was a Saudi conglomerate that was interested, and I was very active on social media, using whatever voice I could within the community to say no. And look, you're talking to somebody that's not supporting the Cleveland Browns anymore, and I would have had to ask myself some questions. Why would you not support Chelsea if they were owned by Saudi when they were owned by a Russian oligarch? I explained why it's different to me. I can grow, and I can make decisions based on new information. So I would not. I genuinely would question my relationship with Chelsea Football Club if they came under Saudi ownership.
I think you better look into Todd Bowley.
Why? What's going on with Todd Bowley? Tell me. Educate me.
No, the answer is I've never looked into him, but...
well, he's not. I know he's not Saudi Arabian.
Oh, so it's just being Saudi Arabian. It's not having ties.
No, does he have Saudi ties?
I have no idea. But
Okay.
did you look into him before
Well,
you...
Look it
He
up.
just said-
He just hit
just
you
hit me with
the-
look it up.
He just hit you with a
I'm
look it up.
asking you
He's just asking the question, and he just hit you with a look it up Saudi style.
Well, if there's a dash of Saudi, will I accept a dash of Saudi? These are interesting
Now we're
questions I have to
talking.
ask myself.
Now we're finally having a conversation.
How big a dash? How many pinch? Is it a pinch of Saudi?
This is so
Is it
funny,
2
Mike.
pinches of Saudi?
Think about what you're saying, please. It's so unbelievable.
I'm not an
You're
absolutist. It's not all or nothing. Like there are degrees, and there are tipping points. I reached my tipping point with the Cleveland Browns. I would take all the information. I know Todd Bowley to be American. I know Todd Bowley to be someone that comes from the Dodgers organization. I also know that I haven't heard any Saudi ties with Todd Bowley. So right now, I kind of felt like I was
right.
And I do think that Roman Abramovich did kind of prioritize no headaches, no more headaches. I've put this fan base through enough. I do think it was kind of a sticking
have
point.
to have Saudi ties. What if Todd Bowley's involved? And I'm not saying he is. Don't make headlines.
You
here,
have already done it. You've already
You told me to look it up.
You have
no
thrown.
work
You've thrown
on Todd Bowley
Bowley
other than
into
the fact that
you've-
he's American.
You've thrown him
That
into the
has
cauldron.
been your research.
I guess you're right. I haven't personally busted open Todd Bowley's books and looked exactly
The
where his
title to
investments
this
lie.
episode is Bowley Saudi, is the title to this episode.
Jeez, you made that one tough.
I
David.
mean, really, David, you're like a dog with a bone with this one.
Because I don't appreciate the inconsistencies. I like things that are binary. You know that about me, Dan.
Yeah.
I like people to just be honest and be consistent and not use emotion to apply different principles to different situations.
I think there are degrees and there's nuance to every conversation. It's the same. It's every Browns fan that hit me back up with, well, you supported Kareem Hunt, and they didn't really have much to do with, well, Kareem Hunt was different. Things are different.
Nuance to get to the conclusion you want to get to.
Right.
And that's the part I don't like.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the nuance that I'm applying to this is Todd Bowley is American. And so far, there hasn't been a big investigative piece that he's either an oligarch or Saudi Arabian. So right now, I think I'm in the clear. David, I want to ask you about something that we talked about yesterday quickly here as we wrap up and go into your review of the week. Some in the Jewish community, I know you're a big fan of cinema, and you're obviously you've talked about your faith here and your upbringing. There is controversy surrounding Bradley Cooper's casting. There is I'm using air quotes, what the Israeli Times dubbed as a Jew face controversy, because he is not of Jewish origin, but he is playing Leonard Bernstein, and Steven Spielberg is at the helm of that project, and some people on Twitter are raising the point that they shouldn't cast a non-Jewish actor for this role, and they shouldn't put him in prosthetics to make him appear more Jewish. What say you?
I'm going to get in trouble here, but it's outrageous. It's gone too far, right? Do you need, so you can't, if you're playing a gay character, has to be played by a gay person. A Jewish person has to be played by a Jewish person. It's absurd. The best actor should get the job, and a prosthetic, that's like when you're playing someone who loses, like, that means Lieutenant Dan, right, had to be played by a W amputee. It just makes no sense to me. I am not offended in the least that they're using prosthetics. Do you know what? You know what? I'm totally offended at the prosthetics that Lily James had to use to look like Pamela Anderson. That was offensive. If they can't hire a woman with fake breasts, then she should not have the job. And by the way, Sebastian Stan, your penis is too small. You don't get the role. You're not Tommy Lee. It's ridiculous. This is the movies. Putting a prosthetic to look like Leonard Bernstein, that's what you do. You make actors look like, oh, do you think that Gary Oldham looks like Winston Churchill? Nope, we got to find a fat guy. You've struck a chord. It's ridiculous.
He is pissed.
Would you have been fine with Scarlett Johansson playing Leonard Bernstein?
By the way, I would have loved that.
It's weirdo.
It is
a weirdo.
I do think that some like Scarlett Johansson stepped into it with some of her comments, and I do think that at what point do we see the art form of acting? Like I like when actors display range, despite our Tom Cruise conversation from yesterday. I do like rangy actors. I do find enjoyment in true performances where someone can convince me that they are someone that they are not. And I do think that while there are reasonable debates here when it comes to casting, like when we talked about it in that movie Aloha, Emma Stone should not be playing an Asian. But there are also things like Bradley Cooper playing Leonard Bernstein that I'm fine with. I think that they're logical. Well, no, she played an Asian in the film, Emma Stone.
Okay.
So it just is what it is. So I'm just keeping it real with you. All right, let's get to your review.
Pacific Island.
Wow. That movie I loved, and it got crushed because Emma Stone is
I
white.
just loved all of it. The petering out, Asian, it is what it is. Please stop questioning me. Please stop dragging me closer and closer to places I don't want to exist in.
Look it up, David. What's your review for the week? I gotta get out of here.
Can we talk about George Carlin's American Dream?
Sure.
Did any of you see the documentary?
Yeah, it's great.
I haven't seen it yet. Tell me about it.
It is a two-part documentary that goes through the life of George Carlin, who is the comedian who some people may not know, but they should. If your audience trends younger, he is the comedian who started with not the 7 dirty words, but he's famous for it. It's the words that you can't say. He was involved in a Supreme Court case about obscenity and what's obscene, and it's very fascinating to think about the Supreme Court then, the Supreme Court now, what we view as obscene, because an AR-15 with an 18-year-old, that's not obscene, but you can't say tits. That's obscene. So they go through the words you can't say, and it's a story about his life, the issues he had with his father, the issues he had. His brother is still alive. The marriage to his wife, how it all manifested itself through his comedy. I had not remembered the ups and downs of George Carlin's career. I had not remembered when he was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the sort of rebirth that was, and the later years of what he became when he became a socially conscious comedian. I had not remembered his evolution. And this documentary was put together as really, it looked like a labor of love. And to me, I think, was it Judd Apatow, Dan?
Yes.
And I found it to just be, I couldn't stop watching. I watched it straight through. I think it's 3 hours or 4 hours, 2 hours or 1.5 hours.
It's about 4 hours of commitment.
And it is a commitment well worth your time, because not only is he funny, but he's so important, because he was talking about things 20 years ago that still matter today. And it's both depressing to think that they still matter, and it's enlightening to know that he was that much ahead of his time. George Carlin may not be considered on the Mount Rushmore of comedians, but after that documentary, I've been rethinking, and maybe he deserves to be.
What is your Mount Rushmore? Get us out on that note.
Jim Carrey is on the Mount Rushmore of comedians. Stephen Wright, Don Rickles.
Yeah.
Those are 3.
Right.
And then one that you won't agree with, but who I love, and he is Brian Regan. If you don't know him, look him up.
I thought for sure you were going to throw in a black comedian just for the sake of diversity.
Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy.
Richard Pryor's right there. Like people don't realize Eddie Murphy, to this day, the funniest comedy show of all time is Eddie Murphy's Delirious of all time.
See you later, David. Nothing Personal is his podcast. Check it out. Thank you, sir.
Tom, thanks again for doing what you're doing, man.
No,
I hope
man.
It works.
Thank you for your donation, and thank you for
of course.
Getting on here and talking about your friend's family and ALS. Appreciate you.
All right, take care. Thank you, guys.
See you, Dave.
A good old thank off. A good old
Did
thank
I win
off.
or did he win?
No, you guys really thanked each other.
No, Tom,
excessively.
thank you.
Thank
I feel
you.
like he
No,
won.
thank
He
you.
thanked you, and then that forced you to
No,
thank him for his donation.
No, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Really, what he wanted you to acknowledge was he made a donation. I'll get to it.
It's like $1,000.69. Thank you. Thank you for the 69.
Holy shit. So it's not getting any cooler in here.
Good day to wear a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.